Welcome to Voices of Atlanta, where I try to capture the stories of the people I meet on the streets of Atlanta by asking them some of life's smaller questions. In this conversation, I talk to Deanna, a fellow muggle, about a mother's lesson in helping others, the magic of Harry Potter, and how to resolve personal issues through writing. This conversation reminds me of a quote from the musician Jana Stanfield, who said that I cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that I can do. What's your name?
Deanna.
What brought you to Atlanta?
School.
Oh, nice. What did you study?
Human health and creative writing.
Oh, wow. Where are you from?
New Jersey.
What's your favorite memory growing up in New Jersey?
Every summer we used to go to the Jersey Shore, and it's famous for the Jersey Shore, but it's not like the episode on TV.
Yeah. I was gonna ask that too.
There are aspects of it that are very much so, like, there's all this pizza and lots of ice cream and that just really laid back summer of a bottle of Coke culture. But overall it was really fun, family friendly. We spent so many nights on the boardwalk.
If you could give credit or thanks to one person in your life that you don't give enough credit or thanks to, who would that be?
I mean, I guess I would have to say my mom, because I know it's a stereotypical answer, but she really does support me in every way.
So do you have an example on how she supported you?
Well, this is just a memory I was telling a friend recently, so it's fresh in my mind. When I was like 12, we were driving in the city together, and there were two kids sitting on a doorstep, teenagers, and they were homeless. And she says, "We're going to get them a sandwich." I'm like, "We're what?" She pulls over to a grocery store, parks, and she comes out with this big sandwich, and we drive back, and she says, "You're going to give it to them." I'm like, "I'm what?"
How old were you then?
About 12.
And how did you do it? What happened next?
I ran up and I gave it to them, and just the expression on the girl's face lit up so brightly, and her eyes went huge, and she just said thank you in this really breathless voice. And that just really changed my life, because it really makes me think about giving to others in a different way and about being compassionate to people.
Nice. What is one thing that you were very afraid of doing, but you did it anyway?
Well, I'll say coming to college, because, like I said, I'm from New Jersey, so Georgia is very far from New Jersey, so that was a big distance for me to jump, and it was my first time, like, far away from my parents, and being in a new state by myself was pretty intimidating, but I did it, and I don't regret it. It's been amazing.
Yeah, nice. What's your favorite? Do you have any favorite experience around during that time?
I just have made so many friends in so many different ways, like people from all walks of life. Especially at Emory, people who are willing to talk about social issues and get to learn more about you and more about how to make the world a better place.
Yeah. What's the social issue that most concern you?
I mean, a lot of them concern me.
That's not good. We have so many to fix, America.
I mean, one thing that I am very passionate about is climate change, and that's one thing I loved about Emory, because it has such a strong recycling program, and it gets a lot of its energy from on-campus, like, water hub, and I think that's so important, because we really are headed toward, like, climate catastrophe if we don't stop what we're doing. So I really do everything in my power to try to help that, but I know it's not enough if we can't get big businesses involved.
Yeah. That's good. Well, thank you for your effort. So, was there a moment in your life that you felt that you were lost?
I mean, I'm always a little bit lost.
How so?
I'm always trying to figure out where I am and who I am, and asking myself new questions and trying to figure out where to go next. So it's always a process of self-reflection. Take a step, more thinking, take a step. It's slow, but it gets you there.
Well, yeah, actually, I'm trying to do that myself as well. So have you figured out, like, as you asked that question, like, who am I, where I'm going to know going next? Like, do you have any, like, maybe a glimpse of answer to those questions?
I think the biggest answer is just that I want to be a good person. And the question is how I'm going to be that person. And what it's going to look like in my day-to-day life, whether that's through my job or through things I do on the weekends or things I just like do to chill out.
Yeah. So since you mentioned how to be a good person, I'm curious too, how do you do that?
I mean, from my perspective, the biggest thing is just having a loving heart and an open heart and realizing that people come from different experiences than you do. And you really can't judge them because you don't know what they've grown up experiencing something different. The way they understand the world is completely different.
Yeah.
And just having that compassionate understanding when you see someone who initially you feel like you might not get along with or you don't agree with, and taking that open-minded approach and saying, we're both human. There's some things we have in common and a lot we don't, but we're going to work together on this.
Yeah. That's good. If you could put a word or message on a billboard for millions of people to see, what would it be?
Just like be kind.
Be kind.
People aren't kind enough.
All right. So last question, do you have any favorite book that you recommend to people?
Does Harry Potter count?
Harry Potter? Awesome. That's my favorite book too.
I love Harry Potter. I'm a complete muggle.
Margot, do you know they're doing an HBO series of Harry Potter?
I did not know, and that kind of saddens me because I'm scared they're going to mess it up.
Yeah, I hope they will do a good job. Otherwise, everybody can be pissed off, right?
I hope so. And see, to me, that as a creative writing major, and as a human health major as well, like stories are such a powerful vehicle for how we view the world and the way we think about things around us and stepping into each other's shoes. And I think if there's anything that can teach someone to learn about humanity, learn about the world, learn about people who are different from them, it's a good story. And the story can also tell people how to do things like stand up to evil, stand up to the problems in yourself, the difficulties in your life. I think books really set a great example, Harry Potter being my favorite of them.
Yeah, me too, yeah. So, yeah, talking about writing, like, something I want to improve on myself is my storytelling, right? Because I'm having a hard time. I like have tendency jumping around. So, do you have any tips like to give it people like to tell stories, like principles people can follow?
Well, storytelling makes the world go round. It's how we learn from a really early age what it means to be a good person, what it means to follow the rules or do things a certain way, why we do things that way. So I think the way in which we tell stories is really important. So one of the big things to always consider is your audience and who are they? Is the story appropriate for them? Do they come from a background where they're going to agree with you? Or do they come from a background where first you're going to need to find some common ground before you get to the crux of that story? Something I always really enjoy is layering a story with tons of sensory details. What does it smell like, sound like, look like? And I think another tip would be, I suppose, just listening to the person you're talking to and listening to what they need before you give them a story that doesn't fit their needs. You have to give them a story that will make their heart sing in its own way.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So going back to Harry Potter a little bit, why did you like the book so much?
I think the biggest thing to me was that Harry was hit again and again by adversity after adversity, and no matter what, he stood up to what was right for his friends and right for the world. no matter what cost, and that is just a role model I aspire to be like. Someone who can be brave in the face of danger and do the right thing even when it's hard, and be clever and quick and strong enough to do all those really difficult things. That's my deepest ambition, to be someone who can make that kind of change when evil threatens.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And I think something that I find really interesting about the Harry Potter books is that in Harry Potter, it's very clear who the bad guy is. Voldemort's the bad guy. People who think purebloods are the best, they're the bad guys. And then when you look at the real world, you look at the world and you're like, who are the bad guys? And you realize it's not as simple as it is in Harry Potter. There's no Voldemort rallying the troops. Because everyone has a story behind them. And that's something that really took me some time to appreciate too. And something that Harry starts to appreciate as well as he goes through the books, in terms of how people came to be the way they are, and what factors informed their experience and shaped their personalities.
Yeah, in real life, it's like, and evil is not really black and white, right? So it's hard for us to tell as well, because what influenced them to do, because there's everybody has a struggle that we don't know, right? So yeah, that's a very good point. All right, this is the real last question. So you mentioned you were trying to figure out like who you are, answer those questions. But I'm curious, that what's the process? How do you do it? Do you do it writing, journaling, or what's your trick of like figuring that out? Do you just meditate, think, and stuff like that?
Journaling is really helpful. Writing is really helpful. I find, to me, when I write, it brings out thoughts in a way that speaking can't always do. Especially when I'm writing a story and I realize it just takes a different mental process to bring about what I'm really feeling and bring it into a different light that I hadn't imagined it before in. I mean, if you want to get into particular issues, when something's bothering me, I find certain things to be really helpful. Like one of the most beautiful writing exercises I did was at a church group, and they said, write a letter to someone who has deeply hurt you, or someone you have unresolved business with, or someone who you want to make a better relationship with for whatever reason. So I wrote the letter, and then they said, now that you've written the letter, go to the top, cross out that person's name, and write your name instead. So, Dear Deanna. And then at the bottom, cross out your name and write God. And then read the letter back to yourself. And that was a really transformative moment. Just being like, wow, the way I view the world can be enriched so much by taking a perspective of what the greater picture is and how we can be more connected to each other.
So you basically wrote that letter and then crossed out the name and then read it back to yourself. What do you do after the letter? Do you just burn the letter or throw it away? Or?
I don't know what I did with that, actually. That's a good question.
All right, cool. I feel like this might get a little bit too deep, so you totally don't have to answer this one. It's like, would you mind sharing us what's in the letter or no? I know this might be getting too far, but yeah.
I mean, I just wrote the letter to some friends who had really hurt me.
Okay.
I said, I feel like you didn't include me, and I felt like you didn't want me, and I didn't belong. And then going back and reading that and having it, God say, Dear Deanna, I felt like you didn't want me. I was trying so hard to connect. That was really eye-opening for me.
So you are actually, you read a letter as if you are God.
Yeah.
Reading to yourself. Say, hey, you are, I see. Okay, I got it now. That's a very nice practice. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Deanna, for your time.
No problem. Thank you.